Hey guys, Matt here from Straightforward Auto. Today we have a 2015 Toyota Sienna here for some front brake pads and rotors. Let's get into it. For this job, we will be needing a number of things. A 1/2-inch impact or a 1/2-inch breaker bar, a 21mm socket, a 17mm socket, 14mm socket, a 3/8 ratchet, an extension, a hammer, some brake clean, a wire brush, and some anti-seize. First, you're going to want to safely raise and secure your vehicle and then go ahead and take off your wheel with a 21mm socket. With our tire removed, I went ahead and already turned the wheel to the left so that way we can get more access to our brakes. So now you're going to take a 14mm and go ahead and get your caliper bolts off. With your caliper removed, I just simply tucked it behind the CV axle and it stays right there. Next, we're going to work on the two 17mm bolts that hold on the caliper bracket. Now with the caliper bracket removed, you're going to want to take a hammer and go ahead and get the brake rotor loose. It's going to take some hard taps all the way around. There we go. It pops free. It comes off. And now we can go ahead and clean up the hub with a wire brush or a wire wheel, and then we're gonna get the brake pads ready. We're over here at the workbench. Went ahead and already removed the brake pads and the old clip hardware. Next, I'm gonna take a wire wheel or a wire brush just to clean out where the clips go, and then also pull out the pins and put some anti-seize on the pins. Just a little tip, my pins were kind of seized in there just from the lack of maintenance. So you can actually take a 17mm socket and get a wrench or a ratchet and just start to work these back and forth until they're free. Then you can pull them out and put some grease back on the pins. Now that that's done, our new hardware is in place. And as you can see, it's like a little U shape, and that keeps tension on the pads, but they're going to be facing outwards on each side. Now we're going to put our pads back in here, get the rotor on, and get everything reassembled. When putting the new hardware on the brake pads, make sure you put these little clips on each side. Well, one will go on each pad. You'll come with 4 of them, so one will go on each pad. All right, we have our new rotor installed. Now, it is a really good idea to hose this down in some brake clean because brake rotors are stored with a coating of oil on them. And so you want to get that oil off before you put your brakes back on. A little tip is you can take a lug nut and tighten it hand tight just to be able to keep this in place. Next, we're going to put our caliper bracket back on, and then we're going to get going with the brakes. All right, so I went ahead and put the caliper bracket on that has our pads already pre-installed. Now you may have noticed that there are holes on these pads, and just like on the old pads, your brake pads will come with new hardware, but also these tension clamps. And what they do is that they apply tension to spread them apart so that way they're not in contact when you're not on the brakes. So you're gonna want to install these. They are kind of tricky as they do push the pads back out, but if you get it right, you can hold it down with one hand and put the caliper back on. So that's what we're gonna do. Before we put our caliper back on, we will have to compress the pistons. And so I have this tool right here, which is a piston compressor tool. You can also use a C-clamp and an old brake pad, but what you're gonna do is compress your caliper pistons and then put your caliper back on. So this is what it'll look like with the tool on. Here you have the press part that's gonna be pushing on the pistons, and then this black elbow piece just hooks onto the brake pad. Now, if you had a C-clamp, this silver piece would be a brake pad that sits there, and then you'll put the other part of the C-clamp somewhere back here. You don't want to put it on the hose because you'll break the hose, but just on the back of the caliper housing, and that's how you'll compress these pistons. This is what your caliper should look like with both your pistons pressed all the way in. Now we can go ahead and reinstall our caliper. All right, there we have it. Our brake rotor is installed, our new pads are installed. Everything's put back together. Now you can go ahead and put on your wheel and go ahead and repeat the same process on the passenger side. Once you're done with the driver and passenger side of the brakes, go ahead and slowly press down on your brake pedal. What this is going to do is push out the pistons. Since we compressed them all the way, we want them pushing on the brake pads. Once the brake pedal gets firm, go ahead and start the vehicle and take it around the block. Do some various braking, like slow braking and then fast to hard braking, but don't hold down on the brake pedal, because as you're seating the new pads and rotors, that can cause them to warp prematurely. Overall, this job did take me about 45 minutes. On the difficulty scale, it's going to get a 2 out of 5, just because it does require kind of getting into the brakes a little bit. This job can be done with all hand tools. If you guys have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them down below. Go ahead and subscribe for me as well, and then I come out with repair videos every Wednesday and Saturday.